The Young and the Restless spoilers in the luxurious, glass-walled conference room at Newman Media, the air buzzed with silent tension. Adam Newman stood facing the city skyline, hands buried deep in the pockets of his designer slacks, eyes narrowed with calculation. Behind him, Chelsea Lawson paced restlessly. Her stilettos clicked against the marble floor with the rhythm of unease, a beat that matched the uncertainty simmering in her chest. They had been here before. Partners in strategy, allies in schemes, and enemies in love, but this time the stakes weren't just personal. This time, they were facing Victor Newman, a man who destroyed with precision and never forgave disloyalty. Adam had returned to Newman Media with a quiet intensity that unsettled even the most seasoned corporate sharks. He wasn't just looking to rebuild the brand. He was looking to reshape its influence, weaponize its resources, and use it as both shield and sword in the brutal game of family politics. Victor, ever the master manipulator, had his sights set on crushing Billy Abbott, the perennial thorn in his side, and was inching closer to using Adam as his instrument. But Adam had no intention of being anyone's tool, not again. And Chelsea, who had only just found her creative footing again, was being pulled back into Adam's orbit with a mixture of suspicion and reluctant intrigue. "You know what he's like," Chelsea murmured, stopping her pacing for a moment as she looked toward Adam, her voice low and guarded. "Victor's not going to stop. If he wants Billy destroyed, he'll bulldoze anyone who gets in the way, including you." Adam turned, his expression unreadable, but his voice held a trace of bitterness. "That's why we hit first. We don't wait for Victor to act, we give him something else to chase. Something so loud, so scandalous, it'll drown out everything else." "And you want to use me to do that," Chelsea said quietly. "You want to paint a target on someone else and let the smoke blind him." He moved toward her, softer now, coaxing. "Not just someone else. Something bigger. Something he can't resist getting involved in. And no one has to get hurt." "Not really. Just misled." Chelsea frowned. She knew Adam too well to be comforted by such assurances. His ideas always started that way, clever, harmless, brilliant in their conception, and then, somehow, they mutated. People got burned. Reputations collapsed. Relationships dissolved into ash. But Chelsea also remembered the way Adam looked at her when she walked back into Newman Media, full of promise, full of plans. He wanted to keep her close, wanted to make her happy, maybe even redeem what was once irreparably broken between them. That desire had power. And Chelsea, despite herself, was drawn to the spark. Then came the twist neither of them had predicted. An anonymous tip arrived at the Newman Media inbox, bearing a digital signature that was almost too enigmatic to be real: Aristotle Dumas. A name whispered through exclusive Wall Street circles like folklore, a man said to be a myth, a recluse billionaire who held stakes in every shadowed corner of high finance, but whose face had never been publicly revealed. Rumors swirled that he was responsible for orchestrating massive digital takeovers, manipulating cryptocurrency markets, even funding disruptive technologies that had governments on edge. No one had ever proved his existence. Until now. The message was cryptic. "Truth is the most valuable currency. I will be in Genoa City on June 2nd. And I will not come quietly." The timing couldn't be more explosive. That same night, Nikki Newman was set to host her lavish birthday gala at the Grand Phoenix Rooftop Ballroom, a celebration that would bring together the city's most powerful and scrutinized figures, all in one glittering room. If Dumas were to make an appearance, or if a message from him were to intercept the event, the social and political fallout would be seismic. Adam saw the opportunity immediately. "This is it," he said, eyes gleaming with the kind of dangerous glee that always meant trouble. "This is the distraction we need." Chelsea hesitated. "Are you suggesting we make this happen? That we fake a message from someone who may not even exist?" "Not fake," Adam countered. "Amplify. Lean into the mythology. Dumas is a ghost. He could be anyone. If the world thinks he's watching Newman Enterprises, if they think he's targeting Victor, Dad will stop everything else, including his campaign against Billy. But why Dumas? Chelsea asked, still struggling with the ethical knots. Why drag a phantom into this? Adam's answer was chilling in its simplicity. Because a phantom is perfect. You can't refute what you can't define. And so the plan began to form? Not out of malice, but out of necessity, or so they told themselves. Chelsea, with her marketing expertise and flair for dramatic storytelling, crafted a faux Dumas narrative so compelling it could have been real. Digital breadcrumbs were laid across dark web forums, encrypted chat rooms, and obscure economic blogs. A countdown clock appeared on Newman Media's front page, veiled as a cryptic art installation, feeding the public's curiosity. Meanwhile, Adam leaked whispers to the press that Newman Enterprises may have become the target of an international corporate mole. Old footage of Victor in dealings with questionable investors was re-edited into ominous montages. Emails, expertly crafted with broken syntax and foreign signatures, were routed through ghost servers to mimic messages from Dumas. The trap was set. Victor, initially dismissive, began to take the bait. Reports flooded his inbox from security analysts and PR executives warning about reputational risks. Shareholder concern mounted. And, true to Adam's plan, Victor's attention began to shift. He called emergency meetings. He launched private investigations. He publicly distanced Newman Enterprises from several controversial partners. Billy Abbott, for the first time in weeks, wasn't even mentioned. But power plays like this never end cleanly. At Nikki's birthday gala, the climax arrived with brutal elegance. Just as the quartet string ensemble began to play, the massive LED screen behind the stage flickered. Static buzzed through the speakers. Then, the screen went dark. A single phrase appeared in stark white text, "The mask always slips. A.D." The room erupted in gasps and confusion. Victor's eyes narrowed. Nikki froze mid-toast. Journalists rushed to capture footage. And somewhere in the shadows of the ballroom, a man in an ash-gray suit watched with silent amusement, a single champagne flute untouched in his hand. No one knew who he was. But his smile suggested he had been waiting for this moment. Chelsea's breath caught in her throat as she watched the screen fade to black again. This had gone too far. The stunt had been meant as a diversion, not a declaration. Adam, however, stood rooted to the spot, visibly shaken. He hadn't planned this part. The message wasn't his. Suddenly, it wasn't a fake anymore. Aristotle Dumas was real. Or someone wanted the world to think so, and they had hijacked Adam's game to deliver their own. Over the following days, Genoa City unraveled in paranoia. Victor doubled down on counterintelligence. Nikki's gala was dissected on every media outlet. Rumors circulated that Dumas had hacked Newman Media's servers, that he had insider access to Newman Enterprises, that he intended to expose hidden financial dealings and ethical violations buried deep within Victor's empire. Investigations were launched. Audits reopened. Alliances frayed. And Adam, for all his cunning, had lost control of the fire he set. Chelsea, too, spiraled into unease. What had started as a clever strategy had mutated into something real and dangerous. Was Dumas targeting Victor? Or Adam? Or had someone simply hijacked their own hoax to turn it into a vendetta? As the city braced for further fallout, Adam found himself staring once again at the skyline, alone this time. He had tried to outmaneuver his father, to protect Billy in a twisted way, and to impress Chelsea with cleverness and control. But now, the phantom had spoken, and the rules had changed. In the war of shadows and power, the worst enemy is often the one you create yourself. And in trying to summon a ghost, Adam may have invited a reckoning neither he nor Victor could escape. Adam sat alone in the dimly lit corner office of Newman Media, the city lights outside casting long, wavering patterns on the polished floor. He stared at the glass of scotch in his hand as if it might offer a blueprint for courage, but the liquid shimmered only with doubt. Chelsea's voice still echoed in his ears, her hesitant question from earlier that day. "Do you really have the guts to go through with this?" In the silence that followed, Adam realized he was measuring his resolve against a force far greater than himself, his father's wrath. Victor Newman was not a man who forgave easily, nor did he tolerate deception, especially from those who swore loyalty to him. Adam took a slow, deliberate sip of scotch, the burn at the back of his throat reminding him that some actions, once taken, could not be undone. He wondered, could he truly withstand the storm that would break if Victor learned that he, and Chelsea, had orchestrated the false Aristotle Dumas message that had appended Nikki's birthday gala? The memory of the LED screen flickering to life, the stark white text proclaiming, "The mask always slips," still throbbed in his mind. He recalled the gasp that rippled through the ballroom, the shocked faces of the Newman family, and, most piercing of all, the flash of hurt and betrayal in Victor's eyes. It was as if, for a moment, all of Genoa City had held its breath, waiting for a reckoning. Now, Adam faced his own reckoning. Did he have the nerve to confess or to continue hiding behind the phantasmagoria of Dumas's name? Chelsea entered without knocking, her own expression a brittle facade of confidence. She wore a dark blazer that cinched at the waist, but even the tailored lines of her outfit could not hide the tension coiled in her shoulders. When she saw Adam's glass, she simply set her purse on the desk and leaned against the polished surface. "You look like hell," she said softly, though her tone was edged with something else, concern, or perhaps a flicker of guilt. Adam set down the glass without looking at her. "Do you think he suspects?" Chelsea asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Victor? Or worse, does he know?" Adam paused before answering, knowing that words themselves could become weapons. "I don't know," he admitted. "He's Manhattan sharp when he wants to be. He'll piece things together if he keeps digging. And if he figures out why I'd use his own father's legacy to pull focus on Billy, it won't be pretty." Chelsea crossed her arms, searching his face. "You always say you're not doing this to hurt him. You want to distract him, give Billy a fighting chance. But what if he finds out? He could literally strip us of everything, our positions, our home at the ranch." "Victor doesn't bluff." Adam's jaw clenched. He had weighed the risk before, but now, in the stark light of consequences, the gamble seemed reckless. "I know," he said. "I know the price. But if Victor dismantles Billy in public, it's like he'll have sent a message to everyone that opposition to him gets destroyed. I can't let that happen." Chelsea studied him, her dark eyes softening for a moment. "I want to believe in you," she said quietly. "But sometimes I wonder if you actually believe in what you're doing, or if you just want to prove something, prove you're not the same Adam who always lived in Victor's shadow." They stood in silence as the city hummed outside. Adam thought of the many times Victor had chastised him, told him he was a mistake or a betrayal, a son whose only real value was as a tool in Newman's endless war. Perhaps it was precisely that history that drove Adam to this moment. A desperate bid to seize control, even if it meant using a legend whose own identity was built on manipulation and deceit. But could he summon the courage to maintain the deception, to keep the charade alive even after the fallout? Could he stand firm when Victor's wrath would be like an avalanche, ready to bury them both? He had to believe he could, because turning back now would be to admit defeat, to hand Victor a victory over both Billy and himself. Yet a nagging thought dogged him. What if Aristotle Dumas, the enigmatic figure they had invented and elevated, was not just a phantom? The message they'd crafted had taken on a life of its own, seeping into the bloodstream of Genoa City. Rumors circulated that Dumas was real, an unstoppable force who had been underestimated for far too long. If the real Dumas emerged from the shadows, furious that his name and persona were being used for their own gain, what havoc would that unleash? Victor might be furious at Adam and Chelsea, but if this supposed Dumas decided to show his face, pursue them for tarnishing his obscurity, even Victor might tremble. In that scenario, Dumas's righteous indignation could eclipse any fury Victor might feel. It could be the salvation they needed. If Dumas chose to protect his myth, it could deflect attention away from Billy entirely. But it could also be the end of them, as a confrontation with a real Dumas would be one they could never win. Chelsea's phone buzzed, jolting them both back from their dark reverie. She glanced at the screen, her face paling. "It's me," one of her key PR contacts whispered in a voice barely above the reflection of a faulty speaker. "There's a dry cleaner on Bremen Street claiming they have a message, handwritten, signed AD, sent to Victor's office. It's marked urgent. This could be bad, Adam. Really bad." Adam felt a cold weight settle in his chest. They had orchestrated the digital footprints, the hinting at dark secrets and impending ruin, but they hadn't planned on someone sending a physical letter. Paper is forever, as they said, and handwriting could tie back to them. "Where is it now?" he asked, immediately moving to his desk to open a secure email portal. Chelsea shook her head. "No one knows. It arrived just this evening. If Victor opens it, he'll know it's connected to Dumas, and then he'll hunt down the source." Adam's mind raced. If the letter matched the fabricated digital clues, Victor would see the pattern. He'd realize that only someone close to Newman Media could have orchestrated it. And though Victor might be furious at Dumas, his real ire would be directed squarely at the person who had used that name. That person was, of course, Adam, or so he believed. But had someone else slipped into their plan? Had a third party caught wind of the ruse and decided to exploit it, sending a letter to escalate the situation? As the night deepened, Adam and Chelsea debated their next move. Should they destroy the letter before Victor saw it? That could confirm guilt. Should they confess now, attempt to win Victor's sympathy by revealing that their aim was to protect Billy, not to undermine him? In Victor's mind, any deception was a betrayal, especially from his blood. Chelsea's voice cracked as she argued that perhaps honesty was their only hope. "If he hears it from you, at least he'll know you had good intentions. If he finds out you lied to him, he'll never forgive either of you." Adam shook his head, his shoulders slumping. "I can't trust that. Victor demonizes weakness. If I admit this was about protecting Billy, he'll call that weakness, and he'll prove it. I don't think confession will save us. It'll just make him hungrier." In the end, they chose to let the letter go forward. The dominoes had already been set in motion, and trying to catch them now would only draw more suspicion. They watched as the courier delivered the thick envelope to Victor's private office at Newman Enterprises, the seal of Dumas smudged faintly across the wax. Within minutes, the call came. Victor was in a rage, but his exact reaction was unknown to them. Chelsea sank into a chair, head in her hands, while Adam stared at a blank wall, bracing himself. Neither of them slept that night.